So I get the pleasure of being here with Brad Bauman, who's principal at Raben Group. Brad, I'm really excited about the discussions we've had and our uh, work that we're going to do together. This idea to be collaborative and to bring things to philanthropic partners and to their grantees, focused on the kinds of skills that we know that they need to build. And so I am really, really excited to be able to have Raven Group be a part of this collaborative effort and wanted to just spend a little time talking more about your work, getting to know it and sharing it with others. There will certainly will be lots of people who've already worked with Raven Group, know you all really well, but would love to have just a quick snapshot, a little bit about the work you do, and tell us a little bit more about your team.
Well, thank you, Tammy. It is such a joy to be here with you, and we relish the opportunity to collaborate with you. My name is Brad Bauman, and I'm a principal here at Raben. Raben's been around for over 20 years, and we've been helping movement partners, and we've been helping foundations, and we've been helping foundation grantees on a whole array of pieces that we know interact with and are important for their work, whether it be communications and communication strategy, legislative and legislative strategy, or just thinking through strategically what they need to do in order to be successful in their goals. Raben has always been a partner for these organizations, and we're truly excited to be working with you and partnering with your partners in order to ensure that their grantees are getting the support and the skills that they need in order to succeed.
Wonderful. And I'll just say a little bit more about this. What we're collaborating on is that Tammy Dowley-Blackman Group has really been thinking a lot over the last few years around the ways in which we could better serve, particularly small to mid-size nonprofits. We work across corporate, government, nonprofit, and philanthropic of all sizes, but we know that there are these particular needs around small to mid-size, which interestingly enough, is overwhelmingly the large percentage of our nonprofits, but we still struggle to figure out how to serve them. Some of it is because their teams are small, some of it can be because their financial resources are limited, and some of it is that they are carrying the biggest burdens of the work that needs to be done in communities. And so sometimes it's hard for them to make the time. And so we started thinking about where we've had the best opportunity to do the work with them and where we've had the most fun and the greatest success. And it's been in learning cohorts. And so what we've designed here is that we would work with Raven Group and we'll work with S. Daniels Consulting and Parks Philanthropy as a group that we would be able to, the four of our teams, be able to deliver services around fundraising, evaluation, around strategic communications and public policy. And so that's the collaborative effort here, and grantees being able to work in the learning cohort. Not only are they learning individually, but they now will have a network of others they can go back to, share ideas, and that they'll be able to collaborate. We're modeling for them. So just really excited about the work that we'll get to do. I wonder if you would speak a little bit about, a current project that you think succinctly might give an example of the way you do the kind of work you're doing around strategic communications.
That sounds wonderful. You know, Tammy, one of the things that I feel like we do really, really well here at Raven is really modulate the way in which we're doing the work in accordance with how large an organization is or how small an organization is. In my own experience, I can tell you, I've been a part of teams that have been, 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 25, 25 to 50, and then 100 plus. And I know that at each one of those steps, the challenges of an organization change and the needs of an organization change. We're thinking about what an organization from 1 to 5 needs in terms of communication. That often looks very, very different than what the communications needs are for a team that has 10 to 20 people and has different levels of budget and has different levels of staffing. I can tell you that right now we're working with a nonprofit organization that probably has between 1 and 5 folks and no communications person on hand. And yet, the struggles that they're facing are way, way, way in the middle of the national consciousness. It's a small organization that happens to have a very big footprint right now because of what they're dealing with. And what we're able to do is we're able to work with them to say, okay, you're not going to be able to do everything. Let's talk about the things that you can do. Let's figure out the ways that you can do them best. Let's take all of the different things that you can't do and put them in a separate bucket. And let's figure out how you can resource either our team as your consultant or allies or others in order to drive message to make sure that your left and right flanks are covered, even though you're in the middle of this great maelstrom of communications that you find yourself in. Those are the sorts of strategies and those are the sorts of ways that we help small partners think about that work. And then what we end up doing is that we help them as they grow to scale their understanding of what they can do with more resources, scale their understanding of what they can do with larger budgets and bigger staff, so that they are relying less and less on sort of outside partners in order to do the communications work that they need to do.
That's wonderful. And I know that for some people, and I think again, you hit it saying that there's teams sometimes they don't have any communications team. So they're trying to do their very best in articulating their story, trying to get their message out there. Others may have some more experienced people, but they're tend to be trying to do multiple things. Can you also explain the difference between, because I've certainly worked with teams where they didn't know the difference between strategic communications and marketing and public relations. Could you just give a brief sentence or two about what that difference is between those?
Absolutely. So much of the time, small organizations are conflating the different aspects of communications and thinking that there's kind of a one size fits all mentality to doing the work. And that's just not the case. To your point, your marketing team needs to be talking about how to package the organization and tell the organization's story in a way that allows you to communicate with prospective members, with donors, and with others. Your internal communications team needs to be thinking about how they're communicating your organization's programming in order to bring people together to participate in the different events that you're putting on, and then ultimately to package them for your donors and for your stakeholders and for others. But when you're thinking about strategic communications, communications that are geared towards helping to aid you in your legislative or your advocacy needs, it looks a lot different and it requires a very different understanding of how that works. It requires an understanding of communications planning. It requires an understanding of looking at different dates and saying, when are the points in the timeline that are going to be the most successful if we're doing external communications? It means bringing together members and allies and others in order to create events and to create things that are visible to decision makers and to stakeholders in order to get them to understand the moment and why what you're advocating for is so important. We do that work here at Raven, and we love to teach organizations how to better do that work with an eye towards all of the different universes and all of the different stakeholders that they need to be talking to in order to move the needle on their issues.
I love this about again that move the needle on their issues. So many of them are working so hard. This is not an issue of they're not working hard. It certainly isn't an issue about they're not having impact. They're having huge impact, but how do they disseminate that message so that they can get others to rally around that message and they can move the needle in an even bigger way? I really appreciate the work that you all are doing. My last question for you, and then I want you to please jump in with any final thoughts. My last question is a team that's thinking, I don't know if I should be a part of this learning cohort that Tammy Dowley-Blackman Group has designed and will have the ability to be able to be a part of something like strategic communications. I can imagine some of the teams I've worked with, again, of all sizes, interestingly enough. This isn't just something about small or medium. I've even worked with some larger teams that assume, oh, we've already got it covered in the sense that, again, we're really good at articulating our message. We've really got great staff or we really have great board members, and all of those things are true. But I wonder if you would speak to why it is so important that they develop a centralized message, that they develop a way in which, to your point, they're coordinating it and they are doing things that now cut across all of their work. They're really tying it all together. Some last thoughts about that, that idea of tying it together, and you can never have enough opportunity to really central in on your message.
We are in a very, very different moment than we've found ourselves in for many, many years. And communications actually sits at the heart of being successful in this time and place. There used to be a time and place where it really was as easy as bringing together the facts and the figures in order to try and influence folks and to achieve the outcomes that organizations are desiring. But as we've seen over the last pretty much 10 years, and this has been supercharged in just the last two, more and more the messaging environment has become diffused. More and more people are going to different places for their messages. And as that has happened, more and more people are really relying on their friends and relatives more than they're relying on broadcast message or the local newspaper or their local TV channel in order to inform their opinions and their decision making. We're in an era that is being defined by people making gut reactions based on emotion. And one of the things that we need to do in order to rise to the challenges that our organizations have is to learn a new way of basically communicating that pulls at the heartstrings of the universes, pulls at the heartstrings of the groups that we really want to be talking to, and to get them to our side emotionally. I'm always reminded of some of the best advice I think I've ever heard, which is long after people forget the words you say, they remember how they made you feel. And at this time and in this space, that is the most important thing that organizations can be working on. And at Raben, we would be happy to help organizations such as yours really get to a point where you are making that emotional connection and you are leaving people with the emotional resonance that you need in order to get them to your side, keep them by your side, and activate them towards their goals.
This is wonderful. Thank you so much, Brad, for the work that you all do. Again, I've worked with many different philanthropic institutions and organizations that have had the pleasure of partnering with Raben. I'm so excited that we're going to get to collaborate in our work and look forward to it. So thank you for taking a few minutes to be able to explain a little bit more detail to people so they'll understand the work that we're embarking on. So thank you.
And Tammy, thank you. Everything that you're doing is just so needed right now. And I so appreciate y'all joining us and having us join you and be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we'll talk more soon.
Awesome. Thank you.